I'm Jessica Peresta, host of the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the High Tech Podcast. If you were here for our first 3 or 4 attempts to record tonight, you would think that we are high. Unfortunately, we are in our right state of mind. We're just having a fun time getting this episode going.
Welcome, High Tech Podcast.
Wait, what? Did I miss the welcome? No, I'm joking.
Here. We made it. we depending on how this gets edited, you're gonna be like, well, yeah, I mean, you just started. Yeah, but guys, there was a lot that happened.
Yeah.
Pre this. If we had high tech bloopers, it would be great.
I think I'm gonna save some from this episode.
We should have like we should have a little high tech bloopers. High tech hijinks bloopers.
Bingo.
You know?
Will and Josh back as usual. We are thrilled for this episode. We are kicking off, or we have kicked off. We're in the process of a series.
We are kicking off. I like how we both looked. Like, you said kick off, and you could tell literally immediately. You guys can't see because we don't do video, but if we did, you would have seen it. Will and I both
looked at our monitors,
at our notes, and our database on episodes, and be like, "Did we kick this off yet?"
Is this the first episode of the series?
We don't remember. We are kicking off a series today.
Learning designers react. We're very excited.
Exactly. This is at least the beta version of this series thing. I'll be honest. We will probably do a more intentional version of this later on in season 3. But this is kind of like an early, just fun, Will and Josh only have so much time to do the podcast learning series.
What can we do that's like this, but isn't going to be as hard to do? If you're familiar with, I think it's Kids React on YouTube, it's like the idea. All right, sure. Well, it's like, get this demographic of people to react to something from maybe an era they're not in or a culture they're not in, right? So it's like a reaction thing. What we have decided to do is do a little bit of a series here where we're going to get with some other learning designers and react to some crappy learning design. That's our, I think, general thing of it. There might be
trainings,
some
courses,
videos.
Obviously, well, even in this episode, we're going to have a video that we're going to be talking about and looking at, and Will and I are still working on how we're going to get that content to you. Right. So I'm not going to commit us to anything right now, but I'm thinking VR.
My anxiety just went through the roof. Like, what? No.
Yeah, we're gonna bring in the VR wizard. Anyway, so obviously we decided we got to pull in the group that everybody's been chattering for. We've seen the kids react. We've seen the VFX artists react. We're like, where are the learning designers? What are they doing?
Clearly, we need them to react.
Yeah, this has been the outcry of the internet.
Just one dude in the far distance.
Yeah, where's the learning design?
Well, as we get into this beginning of our series and start things off in just a moment, do remember to find us on Twitter at High Tech Podcast. Make sure to email us at inbox@hightechpodcast.us or .us.
Us. Not or. Singular.
And go to our website, hightechpod.us, to find all of our episode content. Josh, what can they be sending to us either at Twitter or via email that resembles an animal or some other kind of creature?
Or some other kind of creature? I'm trying to think what that other kind of creature would be. I guess it's true. Yeah, I mean, I've done some stuff. Good times. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't think about this ahead of time, and I know it's gonna surprise the High Tech Podcast audience that I have not done that. I don't know why. This is a thing we do now every time. I should be thinking about this before we do the podcast episodes. I am thinking a lion eating Burger King.
Ooh, delish.
I know, right?
Just kind of obscure the Burger King logo so we don't have any copyright issues.
We won't be sharing it. It doesn't say to be eating. It could be a lion in Burger King. Let's get that specific. You win bonus points with me if it's in the drive-thru. I don't know why. I just feel like that would be funny. Like a lion. That's all I can think about right now because I saw some preview for some movie with a lion attacking people. I think you and I saw this in theaters. It's like a thing with
oh yeah, Prey. I think it's like
no, Prey's a different one.
Predator.
No,
I don't know. Yes, Idris Elba. Yeah, there's a lion.
Anyway, I'm gonna be honest. It looks ridiculous, but I want a lion near Burger King. Anyway, yeah. So
once you send that off to us, then come on back to the episode and tune in as we get ready to talk with Lynée Sanute. Lynée is a longtime friend of mine, colleague through Pedagogy. Pedagogy is a professional group for learning experience designers, instructional designers. Really awesome space. You can find us at pedago.me. That's the website if you're interested in more information and what we do and why we do it. But Lynée sits down with us to react to a very fun training video from I don't think we ever determined, but it's like the 80s or the 90s. So we kind of tear it apart a little bit. We have a little fun with it, and I hope that you'll enjoy this route. So once you've got anything else, let's turn it over and talk with Lynée. Well, we are here for what is likely the first episode of the Learning Designers React series. Very excited to.
I like how you said likely.
It's
likely the first episode, or depending how our idea
the last.
This may never actually be a series. No, I'm just.
Right. This could be the one episode that we do this. We'll see. Very excited to have a guest with us. So Josh and I are learning designers, and we're around that and peripheral to that world at all times. But we're annoying. We're just two voices. So we wanted to bring in other voices, other thoughts to add to this. And I'm very excited today to have with us, and I should have asked beforehand, but my friend Lynée from Pedagogy. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Sanute. I love that.
Sanute. Ooh, that's so fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pronounced incorrectly all the time. You won't be the first or the last.
Yeah.
So
I thought that's what it was, but you know what? It's better to ask than to be a fool. In my opinion.
I've gotten Snooty, Sanute, Sante, all sorts.
Ooh. Snooty's
I feel your pain. People mispronounce Josh all the time. You know, like it was like Josh. I got nothing else. I was gonna. That was good. Wait. I was gonna run with this. Then I had no other options.
Josh actually showed up. You're here for this week? Gosh.
Yeah, I'm here.
Man, what a rough time.
I'm surprised. Yeah.
Lynée and I have known each other through a professional group called Pedagogy. We love it. It's an awesome space to be in as instructional designers, learning designers, all sorts of folks in that space. But if I understand, you actually go back with Pedagogy, right? Do you go all the way back to the beginning, or just an early participant?
I think more so early, because I joined CU Denver back in, 2018, I think, but I had been at the medical campus before that, and Lynée was one of the originals, the OGs of Pedagogy. Okay. So
the other L name.
Yeah, we are best friends, so we get mixed up all the time.
That's wonderful. I didn't know. See, It's hard for us to know, as outsiders, if you will. Pedagogy started out of a group that's in Colorado, Denver, Colorado, specifically.
Mm-hmm, yes.
And so everybody who's joined since then is all over the place. But there's those core folks that you all actually know each other in person, right? All of you?
Not all of us. Like I know Susanna and I know Lynée in person, and then people who worked at obviously CU Denver. There's a pretty big group there. But LaDonna lives in LA, I think. Sorry, I'm not trying to dox you, LaDonna, but so I haven't met her in person. But
cool.
But yeah, it is definitely a Denver thing. I'm not originally from Denver though, and I didn't do my master's in the Denver program, which is where it sprung up from.
Oh, so you're one of those few folks who hasn't, but you have a master's. Is that from another online school, face-to-face? What'd you do there?
I have 2 masters.
Oh gosh. Are you a glutton or what?
I must be. So my most recent one is in education, focusing on instructional technologies, and that is from San Francisco State University, which was hybrid. And then my previous was a master's of library and information sciences, and that's from San Jose, so 2 public California institutions. That started out hybrid and then moved to fully remote, like my second semester into the program. Wow. But it worked out fine for me. It worked out perfectly fine.
Well, that's one of those things that I really love to even get a little picture of folks who are in our field, right? Like, have you ever done an online course? When we design them, if we design
Hmm.
learning experiences online, we're looking for the ideal, but sometimes we've maybe experienced something that is less than ideal or moderately
Maybe. I
ideal.
think it's a guarantee that you
Yeah,
have.
there's always something that's less than ideal. I will say, just a side note, I love that you can tell when somebody works near a learning designer is in that field, because we always say the degrees we got and then we say what type of program it was, like hybrid
Right,
or
right.
online. We're like the
Mhm.
only crazy human beings who tell people that right away. I feel like, because it's like, I wish people would tell me.
Well, and we
Well,
care, right?
Yeah.
and I've worked at places where sometimes the selling point for like an institution is that if your student's fully online, the degree you get doesn't say, oh, University of Blank online. It just says University of
Yeah.
Blank because of various attitudes towards online education.
Stigma
So,
and stereotype.
What? That doesn't exist. Anyway,
oh
That
yes,
everybody
my mom,
loves it. Everybody
my
loves
brother is
online.
my my brother is over a decade younger than me, and my mom was like, I don't want him to take any online classes, and I'm like, Mom, do you know what I do for a living?
Yeah.
And
It's
she
like
was like, no, this isn't about your work. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but it is.
but I care. You know, that's how this whole thing came together for this podcast for Josh and I. We care. We spend too much time thinking about this stuff.
Yeah.
We live, we breathe it. I did my master's online. He's done hybrid and online. Like
Yeah,
it's
whatever you
all
wanna
over the
call it.
place. So it's a
Mhm.
lot of fun, I think, to just have that in mind of like, okay, we not only have maybe been a part of sometimes, unfortunately, creating or delivering less than ideal learning, but we've received it. I think you got to go through the trenches, you know? So you've got that
Right.
some empathy in that way.
And I feel like a kind of cornerstone of this work is that you're dealing with that influencing without direct authority and with
Mm,
people who have way more say over what that learning experience looks like than you. So you're just really trying to make your mark, but sometimes it doesn't look like how you wish it looked. So
right.
you have to kind of be accepting of defeat sometimes, some level of defeat.
Yeah, we unfortunately are not the ones that usually get the last say. And so
No, almost never.
it's
No, for
just the
sure.
wait game. Okay, well, this episode's goal is for us to react to some of those less than ideal training deliveries or learning deliveries. The whole series is going to try and take these apart. Um, Technical stuff is always fun to work with a podcast when you want to look at like a video or a website. So Josh and I are trying to get creative. We're going to probably hear some clips of things as we go through this process, but this is still audio. So we will do our best to create audio descriptions of the things that we discuss. This episode is going to focus on a video that actually Lynée shared to the group of us in Pedagogy, right? You started this.
I
Called
started it.
a
Which
Wendy's
just so
training
you know,
video.
I get a Discord message, because that's the only way Will can get a hold of me, because I'm the worst at being in pedagogy. That goes just this thread. That's all it says, and it's a link to the thread that you started, and no context. And I was like, oh, maybe it's gonna be like something super cool design wise that I've never seen.
I mean, it was. It was so cool.
I was like, Wendy's training video.
And then you hit play, and then
I
you
did.
knew.
Yeah, I did. I luckily have my headphones on too, but you could sort of hear through my headphones what happens in this video. So I did get a look or two in my open office of what was going on.
Oh,
In
it's
this
fine.
video, and you shared one, you shared a couple, but these things are from, I don't know if we found a date. They're just old. They are
They're 90s.
retro
Looks
old.
like general 90s is what I was getting. But
Yeah, I'm going to say, when you say old, depending on who your audience is, they'll be like, oh my gosh.
These
It's
are
not that
not
old.
contemporary. Is that a
I
better way to
mean,
put it?
they still came out after I was born, so.
That's well, rip. Oops.
Well, hey, technically they came out after I was born too, if it's the 90s. Yeah.
So we're old.
Yeah.
91.
We are getting there. I think all of us are on the way every day to old, unfortunately.
Well, I mean,
To
I
set
do want to
this-
live, so.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the getting
Yeah.
old process if it
Yeah.
results in some longevity of life. To set the stage of this video, so this is a video in a series of training videos that Wendy's puts out. Looks like probably the 90s. I mean, we're just gonna peg that as a 90s video time frame, and it's musical education videos on how to do the job of being a Wendy's cashier, Wendy's food prep. So the one that we've reviewed today, and you'll hear some clips of in this episode, is on cold drinks, and it features one white woman singing instructions on how to do various tasks in Wendy's from the cold drink line. So there's a separate episode for hot drinks, and there's a separate episode for grill skills. I can see here the whole grill skills one sounds pretty interesting. But what was your first thought, Lynée, when you saw this? I mean, you put it up for like a weekly conversation point, but did you even think of this from a learning experience? Where you're just like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic?
I mean, there was this is the fantastic, and then part of me that was thinking, wow, the way that we order drinks has really changed. Like, our ability to customize and our expectations, right? Like, if I go somewhere, I can say light ice, no ice.
Oh, yeah.
This is just the assumption that we will make your drink and you will take it. Which I don't know if it's really seen that way anymore.
Here, take this drink. It is yours.
And now I understand why people were so angry about how much ice was in their cups. Like, halfway or full? Like, no, I'm not going to order tea. You're crazy. Tea is like even cheaper than soda. Sorry, that's not learning design though.
You saw it as a consumer. Your mind went right to like the actual experience.
Or if I worked at Wendy's, I'd be like, I'm not going to your competitors because you guys probably are not going to give me enough drink. Like, I know your secrets. Like, do I flash my little lapel pin? I work at Wendy's. Hook it up with the soft drinks.
Can I get tea with not a full cup of ice? That would be great.
Yes. And also gratuitous O's. Or ooze. Gratuitous ooze. And there is kind of like a sensual bit at the end where she's like staring, and I'm like, this was not necessary.
She's got that like sing out, and like the eyes into the camera, the mistiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the deep voice that just randomly comes in during the ooze.
Smile at the customer. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, that did not make me want to smile at the customer.
This is getting sketch. Where is this Wendy's video going? Yeah,
and kind of the soft focus fishbowl type framing.
I forget what show. It was on the gym one day. Some like fidelity TV show, like the wives finding cheating husbands TV show or something like that. And there was like a 90s show, and that vignette approach.
Too long when you said fidelity, and I was like, like. The level of which it looks.
No, different kind of fidelity.
And I was thinking like investments, so exactly. We all went somewhere different.
Like, high context just for that. That's crazy.
But like the vignette approach was like the star thing for the 90s. They just did this like, this close-in misty approach where all your corners were faded out and stuff. I'm like, why? I guess it must have been just the technique. Like it was an easy technique when in a pre-digital like TV world. But oh my gosh, looking at this thing, it's just, and I've honestly actually paused it at the creepiest moment where there's just a hand kind of shadowing over one eye looking at me, and I'm really I think I might hit play just so that moves on. I don't have to look at this person's eye staring at me. At a learning level, at an easy forward level, I think some of the things that it does well, at least at a principle, is like it's sequential. There's definitely like, here's how to do the soft drinks, here's how to do the water drinks, here's how to do lemonade. Like they break it down. If you listen from start to finish, you might learn the procedure. If you weren't laughing the entire time, like I don't know that they've really hit the audience approach with the actual design. Have you ever done something like this, Josh? Like a walk? I mean, we've all done this, right? Like a walk-through video. Start at the beginning, listen through to the end. You should know this procedure, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I feel like that happens so much in our environment. At least in my experience, right? There's if you're going to walk somebody through steps, a lot of times there's somebody wants to do video of some sort, You're walking them through sequentially how they want to do. So I feel like, to your point, they do it sequentially, which would be weird if they didn't. Like, let's be real. How would they not do it sequentially?
Like,
they're like, here, put the drink.
It could have gone soft drinks, burgers, back to water or something. You know, like they stayed in drinks, they finished soft drinks, then they went to lemonade, then they went to water. There's a sequence.
They left out context, though. I think that's my biggest thing. Was like, okay, I know how to fill up the ice, but I don't know why we use the scoop versus another cup. Like,
it's true.
I mean, I'm assuming it's so that people's hands don't go on the ice. Like, please don't put your hands on my ice because that's disgusting.
See, I
don't know
because the cup would lose integrity. So there you go. They didn't give context. So I was like, will the cup fall apart if you put it in the ice?
I mean, those cups were waxed, right? Like in the old days, they were waxed.
It's about 27 seconds into the episode, into the song, and literally it just shows them putting the cup in the ice and then pauses it and puts like a little X on it. Like, don't do this. That's the only thing they do. There's no context of whether it's because of your hand, because of the cup, because what? There isn't any context.
And you don't know, like, why does the ice have to be halfway? Is that like a profit thing? Or is it we've done research and this is the ideal temperature that the soda should be served to the client?
Now I'm just imagining, this song, right? It's 1 minute and 54 seconds long. Imagine if we had these context points as like choruses or something. You know, like the whole song's going, and then it just like kicks off for a breakdown. The ideal temperature for ice is blah blah blah, and to have too much ice will make your drink too cold. You know, just like this little
keep your salmonella and money fingers out of the ice. Like, I'm not a singer, so
salmonella and money fingers. Yeah.
So let me pose a question, okay? Other than just because I could tear apart this video forever. So let me pose a question. You have a client who comes to you and says, "I want to train people on how to do this." Okay, do the cup. I'm curious from your perspective, doing what you've done, how would you change either the way this is delivered, the video, or like in general? Like, what would be the things you'd be like, this is what we should do?
This is what they wanted to create. How would you pivot them?
How would you pivot this to a better learning experience?
Well, I mean, I would start off with questions. Sorry, I totally just stuttered there, but I would want to know, like, why are you trying to change it? Like, what's going on? What is it that we're trying to achieve? Is that like we're running out of ice too often? Or like we have too much ice? Or like we're having to change the soda canisters? Or someone got really mad on Twitter or Yelp about the quality of our soda? Like, why do we have to change this training? Because people love to say, just make this training and it will fix it. And it's like, well, training is not going to fix anything if it's something to do with like motivation versus compliance, right?
Oh, yes.
Or like they don't have resources, or you have one person who's working the entire front of the house for the store. Like they might already know how to do the soda, right? But they're not, because of, what else is going on.
You're pretty much telling people as they come in, serve your own drink. I can't get that. If you want your burger, you got to get your own drink moment. Like if that's the issue at hand. And I love that point of getting into context and asking those questions of your SME or your leadership. I would imagine, especially if you're doing this kind of thing at a video level, I would teach people this face to face. Like, here, grab this, but they're probably trying to hit scale and reproducibility. They will probably want to reach all their people without having to take as much live time from their, floor work. If they're on the floor and they don't.
But video production's expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, this is great. Like, would be on TikTok. I could see them making a quick TikTok, like whoever is their social media coordinator, if they wanted to, if that was going to speak to their current employees. But I definitely wouldn't recommend a video, because video production is expensive. And when you're at that corporate level, like the value of production is so high, right? Like, I work for a big tech company right now. I've seen what it takes to get a 2-minute video shot. And it's incredibly expensive. And then when a mistake happens, because we're human and mistakes happen, you just can't fix it easily, because there's not time to like reshoot in the studio. So I probably wouldn't go for video for this. In person or a job aid, or even like something that they can look at above the drink station.
Right.
Yeah.
Just in time resource.
Yeah. Right. Like
they
probably had training.
That was my first reaction, is that like, okay, where are they going to do this at? They're going to do this at the, scary 90s version of Wendy's that we're seeing in the video. But like, what was their plan for this? Like, we're going to watch the video and then the people are going to remember those steps. This is even though they section it out to like just cold drinks versus hot drinks, which by the way has never occurred to me that there had to be separate training for those two different versions of drinks, but I guess now it makes sense. The fact is, there's like a lot of steps that she sings here, like on what to do. I'm not gonna remember this. Like watching this video, I would go back and probably put the wrong level of ice. I don't even remember what they told me now. I only remember that tea gets full ice because I was angry. That's the only reason I remember.
You had an emotional response.
Yeah.
I feel like though when this was shot, there was probably super popular to have VHSs disseminated to all these franchise areas, right? That was when I still love reading the research on like, is video based training, like, do people retain the information? I'm like, well, if you're just going to sit them in front of a TV for like 3 hours, I'm pretty sure they're not going to.
Well, yeah, and that's what this brings up for me, right? Like, if this is a VHS, they're putting their floor staff in a room with a TV screen and a VHS and saying, watch this. Like, we know in that time frame, it's not like they had a little laptop out on the counter with them. Like, here, watch this and try it as you go. It's not like, it's not just in time at all. It's remove them from the authentic environment, teach them something, quote unquote, and then send them back into the authentic environment and hope that the knowledge transfers. Like,
very formal.
What?
Yeah.
Very old fashioned.
Although I like to believe that there was like a dark room in the back of Wendy's where they played this video and had a whole bunch of people with cups trying to follow the video to learn it. That's what I like to envision was happening.
with like a little fake set or something.
Yeah, like they all had their own little tables with soda machines and they're all trying to like quickly get the soda in and follow the instructions.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that she's an actress because other people that they cut in look like they actually work at a Wendy's and that they're just filming them there. But she definitely seems like we've hired voice talent.
Yeah, right. That was the beginning of her singing career.
Is that Madonna?
The Wendy's video.
the point though of like your production cost and that, I guess, scalability there is that there's probably half a dozen people involved in this. There was a lyric writer. There's a music producer because there's beats and stuff, and it's actually, there's a melody, there's a harmony to it, but it's not even great. You know what I mean? Like, they've spent all this money and the end product does not hold up. It is not like an evergreen resource. So if they dropped at that time, who knows, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to do this, it's just a waste. It hasn't accomplished its learning experience. It's a learning goal. And I wouldn't even say it's going to reach a learning. I'm not even sure it has one, but it's not even good enough to last and be something that I want to use today. Like, to Josh's point about, not learning something except that, iced tea gets full ice because he was angry at the moment. I'd have to listen to this 50 times on repeat to have those lyrics stick in my head. And then I would want to do vile things to myself. Like, this is torture. This is not useful.
Well, I've just learned that in order to get Josh to learn, you have to make him angry. So there's one thing, helpful moving forward for your own professional development.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. That's good because I'm always in a heightened state of frustration.
I think it's all the coffee.
Yeah, it's too much.
I feel like being in kind of food service positions too, a lot of times you're really busy. So I don't know that any of that was realistic either. Like, no one's going to be slowly ladling ice into a cup.
Yeah.
And like, how do you know? Some people are not spatially aware, me included. Like, when you say stop a 1/4 inch from the top, I would need more tips on how to make that actually work.
I want like a little line of tape on the thing, like at that height or something. Like, I want to be able to put my cup to the line on the, and know that that's where a 1/4 inch is. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
And it said not to dump it. And I'm like, so what do you do? Just let it run all over your hands if you overfill it? Like, what's the option
You
there?
get below the cup and you drink whatever comes out of the extra.
Here's a bit of Wendy's for you. Sir.
Yeah.
No waste.
But I think interesting thing and just kind of like takeaway things that like I think we can learn from this and stuff that we talk about and probably harp at all the time is that like for instance, you, as we're talking through this, you immediately just broke down like a few issues that like you could talk through, which is that they probably didn't ask a lot of questions before they did this. It was probably popular to do this idea back then. And so those, I feel like probably, I don't know, Wendy's, if you want to hit us up at the High Tech Podcast and be like, you are wrong.
Not a sponsor.
We did tons of user research before releasing this video. I'd be all for it. But I'm guessing probably the medium drove more than the actual kind of what they wanted people to learn in this situation. Like it was kind of probably somebody was like, we want to do instructional videos that we can kind of mass produce out to our different franchises, instead of thinking through, okay, what does the person actually need to learn and what's going to be the most helpful thing for them in that process. Or even like you're talking about asking questions, is this working or not? What's wrong with this? Like what's the issue that's triggering us to change this, right?
A vice president definitely made this decision. One or two alone in a room somewhere is like, we need to do this. This is going to change Wendy's. I unfortunately if you shouldn't have a second screen up, but I've found the Wendy's grill skills video, and this gets interesting. But then there's specifically a training video on chili can be served with cheese. That's the video. Chili can be served with cheese. If this is what you need to train your people on, and this is what you think is like the thing to change Wendy's culture, like there's just no audience awareness. There's no context to this. They've really just given us content to react to 20, 25 years later. Like that's the goal here for them, I think. Oh man. Okay. If we take that short list of Josh's, we've got some good things that can come out of this. I love that. I've enjoyed the laughs. I hope that other folks can avoid similar issues with their training content and not get sucked into these kinds of videos. I know where I'm at had a team that would literally send, well, in a COVID time, they would like buy, and they had this whole bunch of set of like camera and recording equipment, and they'd send it to their SMEs in COVID. Here, receive this big package. Here's your script. Here's what you need to do. Here's the click through. Record this. It's like, that's how much of a waste is that? A, to have all that equipment and own it, but B, to be shipping it around. C, for it to get damaged every time. D, there's so many layers to this. It's just not effective or reproducible long term. We use tools. Josh and I are big fans of a product called IORAD that helps kind of make little tutorials and walkthroughs. But it's not ever going to be making something at this level where there's music and a whole bunch of production involved. It's just, as you click, it records what you're doing, and then you play it back for the end user, and the end user can click through with you. That's as close to just in time as you can get for software training and software walkthroughs, without having to build it all yourself in Captivate or Rise, stuff like that. So sorry, Wendy's. I'm pretty sure you got a 0 out of 5 on learning effectiveness for this one, but we enjoyed the laughs.
Hey, I'd give them a 1. I remembered ice for tea,
Okay.
1. I'd give them a 1.
I do remember it. Like, I mean, I have no desire to go into food service, but I could make you a drink in the 90s. Get me that time travel machine. I would succeed.
Amazing. All right, so this is our first reaction. I think this will work pretty well. Thank you. As we pivot, there's no helpful or useful segue today. We like to highlight tech. We like to highlight ed tech every episode. And so we've asked Lynée to prepare something. She is so good at her work and has used so many different things, been in so many different places, that it's not even just one tool. It is, what's your tool du jour, if you will?
Project management software.
Boom. How many are out there?
There are so many. And I feel like such a goofball bringing it up, but I feel like every time I talk to instructional designers, learning designers, There's always this push about like, well, how do you demonstrate your effectiveness? How do you demonstrate your ROI?
Yep.
And just also that tendency that we get overloaded with projects and work. And if you embrace and learn how to use any one of these, it could be Monday, Asana, Smartsheet, like whatever it is, Ricky, I'm terrible at pronouncing things. Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, there's a
right.
project management software called Rick. I need to find
Rick.
His competitor is Steve.
He's my best friend. But being able to like automate some of the things, like announcements as to where you're at, get that big picture look of where your projects are, who's not hitting those targets, and that could be as much as your SME is not getting back to you. And you're like, okay, I can't move forward without your input.
Well, that never happens.
It never happens. And also just like giving you an idea of how much time you're spending on things, because I feel like, I mean, I can't speak for you both, but except for maybe one of my positions, I've always reported to someone with no background in L&D or instructional design.
Yeah.
And so they'll have a really interesting, which is fine, but they'll have a really interesting take on how much time they think tasks will take. And you can get really bogged down in that administrative stuff versus the actual design. So being able to say like, hey, this is taking up 60% of my week doing this, and you thought it would only take like 10%.
And
like,
here's the proof.
What do we do here? It can be really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, we just had a thread today in Pedagogy where somebody was asking about this, right? And the conversation immediately went to like someone saying that they did 10 to 30 courses a semester, and I'm like, how? 10? I've been there. I've managed and dealt with around 10 to 15 a semester, but I've never been like a full true designer. I've been much more like para designer, and that was manageable. But if you're talking 30 courses a semester, if you've just even got a contact point on them, if you're actually a part of the objective writing, if you're actually a part of the assessment creation, how? Like, that'd be outstanding to be doing that many courses. Now, it's all about scope. Maybe you just did one thing on it, but if you did a full design procedure with each, you wouldn't have time. You wouldn't be able to survive it.
You get burnt out. No one wants to get burnt out.
Or you need a fleet of people doing all of the courses, which is so
never
typical.
The case.
Right.
Right.
How many of us have been teams of 1, 2, and 3 before? Everyone raises their hand. So there we go.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Now I'm curious, do you have like a fan favorite out of the software you've ended up using? Like ones that you're like, this is definitely the one that was, at least in your situation, I know you've done several different things. You're like, man, this one really hit the spot for this problem I was dealing with.
I think they all have like their pros and cons. Asana had really cool, like when you completed things, a unicorn would go across the screen.
I was going to say that.
Wait, what? A unicorn?
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it'd be like, woohoo, you did it. Anything that was more than just a basic spreadsheet that you had to kind of hack yourself into using has been nice, just because there's a lot more functionality. Yeah. I feel like I have to be really tech agnostic because, if you change jobs, chances are you're changing the tech you're using within some realm or another.
Right. Are you a pretty consistent or long-term contract, right? I know you've been in higher ed before, right? Or have you been moving around a bit?
No, so I was in higher ed I started off as a librarian, an instruction and reference librarian, and that was in 2011, 2010. I don't remember, long enough ago. But I've been contracting for the last 9 months.
Okay.
So, but I am, so I'm wrapping my current contract up. I might be starting a new one, but it's a smaller scale project. But yeah, there are benefits and drawbacks to contracting, and I would prefer having a full-time position, right, just because there's like a culture piece of it. But it's still been fascinating. I've gotten to see how really large scale organizations work, at least through the department that I'm in.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and part of the reason I was asking that is like, I know some folks who like really jump around, and yeah, you experience that every time. You just got to pivot to whatever. But in my own company, I know teams that have used Trello, Monday, Asana, Jira, and probably others. You know what I mean? And it's just within my company because this team picks up this and that team does this. And you know what I mean? Like that just kind of organic approach happens, even within a single company. Josh, I know, at where he's working and when I worked there, similar, right? Like that team picks up something and then somebody else starts using it because they were on a project with you and they're like, oh, that's great. And then they start using it. And all of a sudden, half the campus is using it. And yet the official, IT supported one is still just like Microsoft 365's Planner tool or whatever. They don't want to support another one because we have Planner, quote unquote.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, our team uses now our team within it is more condensed into now we've made a home and like 2 tools that connect to each other and automate a bunch of things, do a bunch of stuff. But our institution has a completely different project management software now that they adopted from some German company that I've never heard the name before. Maybe it's Rick. You're gonna find me. It's the Rick software. But yeah,
right.
That's amazing.
I think too, though, like whether you're in higher ed or, I mean, yours sounds like a startup environment, right? Having all of these tools coming in for different units. I feel like higher ed is a lot like that too, in mostly that, but you're leaning on what funds do you have and like what's free or freemium.
Freemium is key.
Yeah. Or what is heavily discounted through various.
Yeah, where's that?
Or do
where's
they
that,
have a free education plan?
Yeah, where's that education plan? That's the best.
That's the winner.
Sometimes.
Well, yeah, or it's like you get to that 10th person in the unit, and then it's like, oh, it's no longer free. You have, you were only free till 9. It's like, but I need 10 people. What am I gonna do? I only need 10. I had that issue once. I was free for 9 of us, but we had 10 on the team. They wouldn't like up it by 1, but 9 was the cutoff. But 10, you're gonna make me pay $10,000 a year? Like what? It's not even. Yeah.
I forget what tool it was, but I once saw a project management tool that had limits on the amount of comments in like a project. Like it was like the communication. If you got to a certain number,
you can't collaborate.
They were like shut you off. They were like, nope, no, stop talking. You've done enough. It's now time to pay us.
I mean, free Slack is like that, right?
I was thinking of that too.
Oh, we're at 10,000 messages. Bye-bye, passed.
Yeah. Literally, as you're hitting enter.
This one was like, you can't do any. You have to go manually delete those or quit. Like that was.
It just pretty much froze your account.
Yeah, at least Slack automated it for me.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Anyway.
Well, Lynée, thank you so much. Both to have the conversation on Wendy's and reacting to some, what I would say is pretty horrible training, to the idea of digging into some project management. I know there's tons of tools out there and they're all pros and cons for so many different reasons, but appreciate having you with us. Hope to have you back again.
I would love
it. We didn't scare you away.
No, not at all.
Easy.
I have 2 children under 5. You'd have to do a lot to scare me.
Oh, good. I thought at first you were going to be like, I have 2 children under 5. You 2 are exactly like that, so it's totally fine.
No.
We can't be.
Yeah, it depends.
I mean, Josh and I did spend all day watching our Sunday cartoons, quote unquote. It was Lord of the Rings, but it's pretty much Sunday cartoons.
Lord of the Rings as Sunday cartoons, but that's fine. That's not a problem for another episode.
Thanks again. We're gonna wrap the
You'll
episode
have a talk later
in just a minute, but we really appreciate you coming out. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
Woo! That was a good time. That was I gotta be honest.
I really
video just gets me every time I watch
feel like we need to have like a rhyme or a beat or something for the high tech. Like that whole video, the whole thing just makes me want to have I just wanted to start beatboxing or something.
Feels like we need to step up our game. If you're the person who did the singing in that video with Wendy's,
contact us now.
Please hit us up. I think that would be great. I think that would be, if we could write a high tech podcast jingle with that person, I would take that. That would be awesome.
Big thank you to Lynée, though, for joining us. I mean, it's just awesome to have a third person behind the mic with us and to talk this through. Lynée, has done a lot of work, both in higher education and now doing more in corporate space. So we know, the three of us definitely know the things that can go right and the things that can go wrong with this kind of stuff. I really appreciated those she pointed out. Just the cost of this, the idea of putting together a training series of media like this, the cost to make the music, the cost to write the lyrics, the cost to record it, the cost to have a singer, this is not an appropriate way to train people.
Yeah. I think if anything, and hopefully this comes through the series, it just reinforced for me the fact that we jump too quickly into designing, whether it's training or courses, into thinking through the medium in which it's happening before we think through the outcomes and the appropriate questions we should be asking. Because you notice in Lynée, her response, she immediately just kind of jumps into questions. Well, why do you want to do videos?
I love that.
What do they need to do? Where are they needing to learn this? And it didn't take us long to go, video was not the best option. Maybe we should have done on-job prep, maybe job resources, stuff that could be there. Something I didn't get to mention in the episode, Lynée talked about in the video, they talked to them about how to put so much ice in the cup, which I still think is hilarious. And she was like, I don't know what 2 meters, whatever it was. I don't know. That could be ridiculous.
Right.
Whatever the ice was. She was like, I would need a line. I had a thought during the episode. I was like, how much cheaper would have it been to, instead of make this promo video, they just make sure that on all their cups there's a line that shows where the ice should be.
Fill to this level.
Fill to this level. That seems a lot less crazy.
And more effective.
Yeah.
You're going to have a more consistent experience if your end user, the drink filler, can see the line.
Yeah.
And
it could even have 2 lines. It could say fill the ice up to here. For tea, fill the ice up to here. You know what I mean? And instructions could be somewhere near the cup.
For soda, come to here.
I feel like that's... Anyway, to the point being, I think what we can learn from in our work in learning design, whether you're designing trainings that are similar to what Wendy's doing, or you're, designing courses in higher ed, like we talk about all the time here, is it's, start with what the outcomes are supposed to be, and just ask questions. Okay, where... I was thinking through this as we were doing the episode, this is applicable to, if I'm designing a course for counseling, or I'm designing a course for tanks. I need to look at what are the outcomes, and then also okay, where are the people gonna be when they're doing this stuff, right? What's the environment they're gonna have to do this stuff in? What's the environment they're gonna be learning in? What's gonna be the best thing for them to actually learn the type of thing they need to learn, and let that inform what we're doing, instead of, hey, it'd be cool. I think everybody in the 90s has been doing training videos. We should do some pro training videos. With ooh, I know what'll really get them. What if we got this girl to sing a song, and
with that beat in it?
Yeah, and I really want to know what conversation around the table led to the ooze. Okay, I'm sorry. I want to know where the ooze came. Was that just somebody wrote a jingle about this and was like, we need to kill some time? They were like, the video has to be 8 minutes long.
Remind you of a very specific faith-based genre of music or anything?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. This is one of those things where I just loved, Josh and I can pick this thing apart. Josh and I have our insights, but Lynée led with those questions. I'm like, that is such a good practice, a good demonstration of what we should do and what we do, and how we would react to hey, here's a pitch. Okay, here's a pitch. There's a video, there's a singer, there's sick beats, and we show them how to fill soda. No, instead of okay, you're an idiot, please sit down. Well, how do I politely tell you're an idiot by asking you 100 questions that make you reconsider that idea?
Yeah. Well, that's why designers should be there. I mean, that's a lot of the questions that designers need to... Designers are trained in thinking through how do you design towards outcomes and design for learning. At the end of the day, we deal with this in higher ed all the time too. As a prof, you are very much the expert of your content, and some of you are the expert in how to learn that content, but there are some general learning principles that can be better used in our space. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely appreciate it. I think Lynée really helped make it realize how simple this really is. It's not that complicated to think through this. I will say this one other tag before we close this one out is that if you were trained by this Wendy's video and you listen to the High Tech Podcasts, please find us. That's all I have to say. I want to meet you and I want to know what the experience was like. This is my requirement.
Yeah, we will we will pay you to come on an episode of the podcast.
Yes. Not much, probably
$5.
Well, maybe more than Wendy's paid you in the 90s. I don't know.
Oops.
But anyway, so check that out. With that though, super excited. Now we get to continue the series next episode with Susanna
Simmons.
See, if we had prepped, I would have asked Will, but in our podcast notes, it just says Susanna S. She's also from Patagomy. And you would be like, Josh, aren't you also a part of Patagomy? Shouldn't you know her full name? You are correct. But she will be on the podcast next week for our next episode of Learning Designers React. Super pumped about that. Check it out. See what comes out of it. Will we look at a new Wendy's video? I don't know. Mainly because I really don't know. I'm not trying to find out. You out. We're still figuring that part out. Anyway, check us out next week. Again, just a reminder, hit us up on Twitter at High Tech Podcast. Let us know what you're thinking. Drop us that picture. Just say hi. Be like, Will, looking great. If you want to do that, that's fine too. You can throw that on Twitter.
Thanks.
That'd be great.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I was just tossing you on. You can absolutely be like, Josh, great beard. I would like that too. Whatever you'd like to do.
About to say
just
that.
drop it on Twitter. We're whatever you'd like. Or you can be like, you guys look horrible. That's fine too. I don't care. Hit us up there or email us inbox at hightechpod.us. And then also check out our website, hightechpod.us for the episode pages that we release every week. If you listen to us on some kind of podcast app or something, there's a website too you can look at. Come look at it. It's great. With that said, thank you again for joining us another week as we continue to learn what it doesn't look like to harness technology. No, I'm just joking. To harness technology in the classroom, whether online or in person or at Wendy's. See ya.
See ya.